Making more money seems, at first glance, like the obvious solution to any financial problem. After all, if your salary increases, life should become easier. But if that were true, everyone who earns a lot would be financially at peace. Doctors, executives, judges, athletes, and business owners would never fall into debt or feel stressed about money. Reality shows the exact opposite. Earning more, by itself, does not solve financial problems. The most common mistake is believing that financial problems are exclusively caused by income. When someone feels financially squeezed, in debt, or constantly at their limit, the almost automatic conclusion is, "I need to make more money." This idea seems logical because money starts to be seen as the only variable in the problem. And, in fact, increasing income can relieve immediate pressure, bring temporary comfort, and even solve specific short-term difficulties. The problem begins when this temporary relief is mistaken for a permanent solution. Without a real change in behavior, a salary increase does not change the structure of one's financial life, it only raises the numbers involved. The person keeps spending the same way, making the same decisions, and repeating the same patterns, just with larger amounts. The budget expands, the justifications for spending expand as well, and what once seemed excessive starts to feel deserved or normal. Money comes in more easily, but it goes out at the same speed, or even faster. In this scenario, an increase in income works as an amplifier of habits, not as a fix for problems. If disorganization, impulsiveness, or lack of planning already existed, all of it grows in scale. Installments become larger, commitments last longer, and mistakes become harder to fix. That's why many people earn more over the years and still live with a constant feeling of financial pressure. Money doesn't disappear by chance, it simply follows the same path as before, just on a wider road. One of the main reasons why earning more does not lead to financial progress is what's known as lifestyle inflation. It doesn't happen abruptly or through deliberate planning, but in a silent and almost automatic way. As income increases, consumption patterns rise along with it as if it were natural. What was once seen as unnecessary starts to feel normal, and what once required planning begins to be bought on impulse. This process often reveals itself through seemingly simple changes. Frequent phone upgrades, a nicer car, more expensive restaurants, constant food delivery, and new forms of leisure. None of these choices, on their own, seems problematic. The issue lies in the combination. When several decisions like these happen at the same time, they significantly increase monthly living costs, often without the person realizing it right away. Over time, this new lifestyle becomes established and starts to require constant maintenance. Money comes in, but it already meets a level of spending designed to consume almost all of it. The result is frustrating. Even while earning more, the amount left over is exactly the same as before, or, in some cases, even less. Income growth doesn't create breathing room, it simply supports a more expensive lifestyle. As a result, there is no real financial progress, only a continuous race to maintain one standard of living. At the same time, there is a concept that is even less discussed but extremely dangerous: personal inflation. Unlike official inflation, which affects prices in general, personal inflation refers to the growth of individual fixed costs. Rent or mortgage payments, school tuition, health insurance, condominium fees, car expenses, subscriptions, and other recurring costs accumulate over time, often driven precisely by an increase in one's standard of living. The key difference with these expenses is that they are not flexible. While one-time or discretionary costs can be cut during difficult periods, fixed expenses rarely decrease easily. The higher the standard of living, the more rigid the financial structure becomes. This drastically reduces the margin of safety and increases vulnerability to any unexpected event, such as a loss of income, a medical emergency, or a change in the economic environment. When fixed costs rise, financial freedom automatically declines. A person becomes increasingly dependent on a high income just to sustain their daily routine, with no room for mistakes or breaks. It's at this point that many realize earning more didn't bring peace of mind, but rather a more expensive and financially rigid life. In the end, it's not the size of the paycheck that defines financial progress, but the ability to prevent expenses from growing at the same pace as income. Another critical point to understand is that earning more money does not fix poor financial decisions. On the contrary, it only amplifies their impact. Income does not automatically change behavior, nor does it make someone more aware or strategic. If financial habits were already problematic before, An increase in money simply creates more room for those mistakes to happen on a larger scale, with consequences that are harder to reverse. There is an important difference between making small mistakes and making big ones. Those who earn little and make poor decisions usually make mistakes limited by their budget. Those who earn more, on the other hand, deal with larger amounts, longer time frames, and heavier commitments. Installment plans become more frequent, debts stretch over years, investments are made without a real understanding of the risks, and credit card limits start to function as an extension of monthly income. A higher income also creates a false sense of control. Because money comes in more easily, risky decisions seem less dangerous in the short term. This leads many people to commit future income under the assumption that there will always be another raise, bonus, or opportunity to fix everything. The problem is that this mindset turns the future into collateral for mistakes made in the present. Over time, these behaviors feed a silent and hard-to-notice cycle. Income increases raise the standard of living, fixed costs grow, and poor decisions begin to weigh more and more on the budget. The person finds themselves trapped in financial commitments that require a consistently high income just to maintain their daily routine. At this point, the pressure increases and the conclusion is usually the same. It's necessary to earn even more. Work intensifies, stress grows, and the feeling of insecurity remains. The cycle repeats itself indefinitely, and financial peace never arrives, not because income is insufficient, but because the same patterns keep being repeated at an ever higher level. If earning more money doesn't solve financial problems on its own, then the solution must lie elsewhere. It lies in behavior, awareness, and strategy. Money is a tool, and like any tool, its impact depends on who is using it. Without intention and clarity, even a high income can be wasted. With discipline and planning, an average income can create stability and peace of mind. The first step is to deliberately take control of your lifestyle. This means consciously deciding how you live, rather than letting income increases automatically dictate your spending. Keeping fixed costs below what you could afford creates financial breathing room that serves as protection against unexpected events and as a foundation for better long-term decisions. Separating income increases from spending increases is another fundamental habit. Not every extra dollar needs to turn into immediate consumption. When part of the income growth is directed toward savings, investments, or risk reduction, money starts working in your favor instead of simply supporting an increasingly expensive lifestyle. Learning to make better financial decisions is also part of this process. This involves understanding time frames, risks, commitments, and consequences before taking on any obligation. Well-thought-out decisions reduce the need for future corrections and prevent mistakes from becoming permanent. More than knowing how to earn money, it's essential to know how to manage it. Creating a margin of safety should come before comfort. True wealth is not about spending everything you can, but about building the ability to choose. When a margin exists, money stops being a constant source of anxiety and starts to represent freedom, flexibility, and peace of mind. Earning more money is still something positive and desirable. A higher income expands possibilities, offers more options, and can indeed make life easier in many ways. The problem isn't the money itself, but the expectation that it alone can organize a financial life that was already disorganized. When financial awareness doesn't keep pace with income growth, money ends up playing only an operational role. It comes in, pays bigger bills, and sustains a more expensive lifestyle without creating real peace of mind. Without awareness, an increase in income does not fix structural flaws such as impulsiveness, lack of planning, or short-term decision-making. On the contrary, it often masks these problems for a while, creating the illusion that everything is under control. Easier access to credit, higher limits, and a momentary sense of relief hide how fragile the financial structure really is. When an unexpected event occurs or income fluctuates, it becomes clear that the problem was never a lack of money, but a lack of strategy. In the end, money does not fix behavior. It simply follows the decisions of the person managing it. Without clarity about priorities, limits, and goals, any amount will be insufficient. That's why the real turning point doesn't happen when income increases, but when the way you think about and make decisions with money changes. When that shift happens, income stops being just a bigger number and becomes a conscious tool for building stability, security, and freedom over time. If this content made sense to you, if at any point you recognized yourself in these situations or realized that you've fallen into some of these traps before, that's a great sign. It means you're starting to see money in a more conscious way. Here on the channel, that's exactly the goal: to talk about money in a realistic way, without easy promises, magic formulas, or dangerous shortcuts. The goal isn't to tell you how much you should earn, but how you can use more effectively what you already earn, and what you will earn in the future. Because in the end, financial peace doesn't come from big numbers on a paycheck, but from consistent decisions over time. That's what builds stability, freedom, and real choices. If you want to keep developing this awareness and learn how to think more clearly about money, financial behavior, and long-term decisions, subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss the next videos and can follow this journey with me. See you in the next one.